Hey guys, it's NoFragLimit here. I will be recording another game of Warhammer 40k Conquest today, an online competitive league called Gardis Unearthed. This time it will be a third round between Team Apoka, also known as Unearthed, versus Brad, also known as Rendy. Now the both players are with the complete set of points, so they will be playing for the first place in the tournament, really, at this point. And they both decide to bring a Chaos Warlord. Now the Apoka plays with the Zarathur. Rendy decides to bring the Vael the Gifted. Now Rendy plays the Vael the Gifted very often, so he's very experienced with that deck really. Apoka, I see him for the first time bring the Zarathur. Let's look quickly on the planet. The first one allows to resolve the battle ability of the non-first planet, triggers the battle. The second one just moves the units between the planets. The third one is very good, allows you to rally 6 cards for a unit cost 3 or less. The fourth one deals some damage on the adjacent planet and the HQ, and the fifth one allows you to sacrifice an army unit for 2 resources and for 2 cards. So it could be a really good effect for a Apoka who does have so many cheap units in this hand. And what's great in this match that we can actually see both hands of the players are visible thanks to Hive Tyrant and his videos. I figured out how to really kind of add this feature to my videos, so I hope from this point you will enjoy the games a bit more. The first deployment from Apoka is to deploy that support, which allows him to add 1 damage on it whenever Khorne unit will enter the game, and once it have 2 damage, you can attach this support as attachment to add 2 attacks to the unit. Purveyor of Hubris, this is the first deployment of Rendy, and I think it's a great move. With this deployment he increases any non-linked deployments on this planet by 2, so considering all the low cost units that Apoka have, it's a really heartbreaking move. And I think with itself, he straight away already secured that planet for being taken by Zarathur. So now I think Apoka will need to reconsider his moves. He have 2 copies of Soulbinders, Chaos Fanatics, Splinters, Zarathur Flamers, and Uncontrollable Rioters. So he could really deploy most of them. Soulbinder, it will be the first choice. He may to now think about which planet. The Soulbinder have an interesting action, limit 1 per phase. He can really move a cultist between the planets, and he actually gives +1 attack, +1 HP to all the cultist tokens. However, he limits them to max 2. So it's a really cheap, interesting, kind of unique unit. I really like it to see in play. He have 2 copies straight away, so I kind of wonder, probably he have 3 copies in his deck, and he decides to put it on plan number 4 to gain the economy with the resource. Now, I'm not really kind of convinced that that's the best deployment. As you see already on the economy display, that there is actually only 3 cards on the command struggle to gain and 6 resources, so the cards will be more important here than anything else. There's plenty of resources, there's no really need to gain that control, but he gives away the turn for Vael the Gifted to Rendy to decide, and I think what he's going to do is to play the Slanesh Temptation to really increase each and other deployment, and he made to think about planet number 4 itself to force that Zarathur to go there or deploy any other unit there, but no, he decides to put on plan number 5. It's a mistake in my opinion. The plan number 5 is a preferred target for Zarathur to go there to trigger the ability and kind of try to sacrifice, for example, the Rioters for 0 cost and gain 2 resource 2 cards. So Zarathur would potentially go there anyway. Now by adding this Slanesh Temptation there, this is 100% sure for me that Apoka will consider that planet as the Warlord commitment. So if he would deploy that card on planet number 4, it would be automatically a double commit or double gain on the planet number 4. Not only the Zarathur will need to go there, also any other deployments except of that planet will cost them more. He decides to put the splinters on planet number 5 to gain the command, and Duke of Debris response from Rendy on planet number 3. And a quick response from Team Apoka, Chaos Cultist with increased cost, I guess, for free. I will allow him to deploy on planet number 3 to gain the command advantage there. So really, so far Apoka is controlling 3 planets, and Rendy has passed, so Apoka could deploy another unit, which will be the uncontrollable rioters on planet number 5. So Rendy has passed. He don't have any other actions or more resources really to play. So Unearthed, Apoka, he passed as well. Now, as to commitment of the Warlords, I imagine that Vael the Gifted would try to go for plan number 5, and so do Apoka will do as well, to go there and defend the small units and also get rid of that Slanesh Temptation and try to trigger the sacrifice. What Rendy could also do is to go for planet number 2 to try to move that Purveyor Habris from HQ, or from planet number 1 really, to planet number 3 to keep kind of gaining the control on red planets. As he's going to get the first red icon, he could really prevent deployments from the next red icon, and Apoka will find himself in trouble straight away. But also he could go for plan number 4 to trigger the effect and kind of try to kill as many units as possible, and that's what he does. He lands on plan number 4 and Apoka goes for plan number 5. So 2 planets in each control command. Rendy triggers the commit reaction from the plan number 4 to add 1 damage on that Soulbinder, which is great. And the commit reaction plan number 5 just allows the Apoka to limit the hand size to 8, which doesn't do shit. So they're about to take the command struggle income. So it's 1 card and 2 resources for Apoka, and it's first is a Duke of Debris being triggered to search for 2 cards to choose 1, which is Archon's Terror, really good draw, and then 1 card and 3 resources from the command struggle, which is in total makes 3-2 a good income. Now the draw for Rendy was Gut and Pillage, so considering that the first planet have the red icon, it's a really good draw, a really lucky one, so great turns of the event for Rendy himself. Now both players, they have no actions on planet number 1, so I guess Rendy could really trigger the reaction here to resolve the resolve the battle on the non-first planet without the Warlord present, but I guess there are no Warlords or no really targets where he could consider this being used. Planet number 3, okay, he have this Archon Terror. He could really send off the Chaos Fanatics to HQ, which will be ridiculously expensive play to do, but do not forget about the ability of the Soulbinder sitting on planet number 4, which could potentially just move here another cultist against that Debris, Duke of Debris, to kill him off and still win the planet ability. So I guess there is no point of triggering that reaction of the planet. So no trigger, but Gut and Pillage definitely being played to add another 3 resources to Rendy's pile, and it will be total of 6 and total of 10 in the new turn, so that will be an extremely high amount. And let's resolve the battle on planet number 4 right now. It will be the first reaction to Rendy, no actions for both of them, so Rendy decides to strike for 2. Which makes a total of 3 damage on that Soulbinder. and he have no actions after the attack. Unearthed seems to do not have any actions as well, so I guess it will be the response from the Soulbinder. He could really move those uncontrollable rioters here to try to deal 2 damage on that Warlord, and he does right now. So he actually uses the ability of the Soulbinder to move that unit onto the Warlord and deal as much as damage as possible on him. But I guess Rendy could really trigger the ritual here. One of these special cards, the Inventable Decay, which allows him to move 2 damage from units. Whenever the unit moves onto planet with your unique unit, which is the Warlord, then he's allowed to move 2 damage from unit to unit on the same planet and exhaust it. So it's kind of perfect timing to do this, and obviously Rendy is thinking about that right now, and he does indeed place this for 1 resource to trigger and move damage from Soulbinder to uncontrollable rioters to kill them off. So really good play from Rendy. So that exhausts the rioters obviously, and he will move the damage from Soulbinder onto them to kill them off. So yeah, he will so he will go to discard, and we will see only the Soulbinder with 2 damage left against that Vael the Gifted. So I guess he won't do any harm to the Warlord, and he will need to retreat in the end. So he strikes for 1, and Warlord takes this damage. That's completely fine, I guess. They have no actions, so they ready themselves, and obviously Rendy stays with his Warlord, and Apoka needs to retreat with the Soulbinder. So now Rendy can really trigger the reaction of that planet, allows him to deal 1 damage to adjacent planet targets and the HQ. So it's going to be 1 damage to the Soulbinder, 1 damage to Chaos Fanatics, and unfortunately 1 damage to Splinter Acolyte, which will kill that unit because there are no shields in the Apoka's hand. That's a big loss. He actually lost both cheapest units to sacrifice from that plan ability in plan number 5. So it's a bad news for Apoka. He obviously managed to get rid of that Slanesh Temptation, which is good itself, but now he needs to think what's his best choice to trigger the plan ability. Plan number 5 allows him to sacrifice the unit to gain 2 resources and 2 cards, but I guess it will be a tough choice between the Chaos Fanatics and Soulbinder. He doesn't really gain any resources in terms of the costs, but he's gaining 2 cards, and I think the Soulbinder itself, it's a better choice here, as it's already in HQ, and that means he will land tapped on the next round, and he have in fact another copy of Soulbinder in his hand, so it won't be a great loss. It's a unique unit, he cannot really deploy both of them anyway, and that's what he decides to do. So he draws 2 cards, which is Zarathur Flamers, the second copy, and Squiggin Bombin. Interestingly, I saw Apoka playing this Squiggin Bombin another time. It kind of killed me off. I remember when he played against my Elder of Starbane. But that's it. The players passed the turn, so it's now turn number 2. Rendy drew another copy of Slanesh Temptation and Ireful Vanguard, so really good 2 cards coming his way, and I could imagine as the initiative is on his side, he will deploy that Slanesh Temptation again, and he do so, and he does again on planet number 4. Consistency are really weird. He could go for planet number 5 really, as this is the preferable target for the Zarathur again. I guess he's maybe dragging the attention away from enemy Warlord and to do not let him land on plan number 1 and just take control of it again. Kind of thinking what Apoka could really do with all those cheap units now. It's kind of really heartbreaking to play this Slanesh Temptation. He decides to play the Splinter Acolytes on that same planet, so it kind of mirror moves from the previous round. Slavish Temptation, Acolytes, same response on the same move, so it didn't really cost him much, and but still there's a few units left in play, and I'm thinking what would be the response from Rendy right now if he would try to deploy the Void Pirate, Rogue Trader on the same planet, different planets to gain the economy, I guess, and the Ireful Vanguard on planet number 1 maybe? I'm not really sure what he's going to do. He decides to go for Void Pirate on planet number 5, which makes perfect sense. He gains the control of that economy. It's 2 resources, 1 card now in planet number 5. So it makes it a really good target for Zarathur, but is the second target after the planet number 4. Interesting thing, if the Vael the Gifted will go with this Purveyors of Harbor to planet number 4, it will not only leave the Slanesh Temptation over there in life, increasing the deployment of each increasing the deployment of each unit by 1 on every single planet except of that one, but also the Purveyor itself will increase the deployment on that particular planet by 2, so Apoka could be completely screwed if the Rendy decides to go for planet number 4. What Apoka decides to do, he decides to sacrifice that Acolyte for 2 to reduce the cost of the Soulbinder by 2 as its demon unit, but the Slanesh Temptation make a total of 1. So that deployment with the sacrifice cost him 1 in total, which is not really a bad move. He can still deploy a unit on planet number 4 with normal cost and equals that command on planet number 5. So it's a good move, I guess, from Apoka here. Now, if the Rendy decides to deploy something on planet number 4 to bait his opponent to go there, but I guess with the 6 resources he could expect really a deployment on that planet number 4, so he need to really think about deploying something around the other planets to make Zarathur kind of reconsider his commitment and to go somewhere else. He still have the Archon's Terror in play, so he will put the Trader in play, and is it going to be a plan number 3 to make it a really good kind of income? Oh, it's going to be a planet number 5, interestingly. So he wants to really gain that economy from the last planet. Now Zarathur will be really torn apart between the planet number 4 and planet number 5, as it seems to be, an interesting target to go for planet number 5, to kill off that Rogue Trader and the Void Pirate, but he will keep the Slanesh Temptation in a game. So, wow, it's a difficult situation for Apoka, really. None of those, well, there's only one unit with its core, and it's a Psychopath. So, I guess this Psychopath will add 1 damage to the support, but it won't able to add 2. So, there's no way he will be able to match and add it as an attachment still yet. So, some tough choices here to make. This Medallion of Betrayal is a good attachment. Allows to, when it's added to the cultist, allows to add 2 attack, 2 HP. So it could make one of the small units very powerful for really a low amount of resources. And what the Apoka decides to do is to play this Ravening Psychopath for free. So I guess it won't be the plan number 4. It will be plan number 5, interestingly again. So he even the command on plan number 5 right now. Okay. So he's denying that income from Rendy. He doesn't want him to gain a much economy here. So is he afraid of his ritual? Of cost 4, which allow him to search for cards in order to put 2 units in play during the battle. Possibly so. You may have to think about adding the Medallion of Betrayal, one of those units, to make it more dangerous. And he moves 1 damage from Chaos Fanatics to Cauldron of Corn. Okay, so he finally realized that he can really get rid of damage and move it onto the support. So okay, that's fine. Make it 1. So still, we have another one to go. Now it's down to Rendy to decide where to deploy this Ireful Vanguard. I guess the smart choice will to go for plan number 1 to gain the second green icon, and by winning plan number 1 he can move 2 units between the planets. So he could really try to swap those Void Pirates or Rogue Traders, to swap them between the with the Ireful Vanguard, or he could really just try to swap the Duke of Debris with the Ireful Vanguard and just redeploy them on plan number 2 to make them ready for the next battle at the first planet. It'll be kind of a snowball play. But let's do not go too far with our predictions. It's down to Rendy still to deploy. He may think about going with his Warlord to plan number 4. I mean, that's what I would do. This Purveyor or Hubris with the Slanesh Temptation on the same planet will work so well. And I guess Rendy probably figured out by now that doing his Apoka, he have a lot of cheap units in play in this deck also, so it would be a great move to kind of kill off his economy anyway, despite of the command advantage or not. So yeah, hard choices for Rendy. He's thinking about that unit, where to deploy. He have 2 copies of Doombolt. He cannot really use them for anything else now than for the shields, as there are no units damaged so far. So I guess it will be the Ireful Vanguard deployed. It's just a question where exactly it will be. He says it's a hard choice. So there it is. He decided to play it and put it on plan number 3. So I guess he won't go there with the Warlord. So alright, so he could now I wonder why plan number 3. He may be thinking about securing the victory condition straight away, as he have already won red icon. He could go with the Vael the Gifted on plan number 2 and to trigger the battle over there, and then try to start your securing plan number 3 as a next victory condition there. So let's see. The response from the Apoka is to put the medallion on the psychopath, so it will make him a total of 3-5 with the action, which allows him to add the damage on himself and another unit. So a really great play. And I think if you will consider that Ravening Psychopath could really work well actually with the support, which allows him to move the damage from a corn unit, whenever you deploy another corn unit. So I see where the Apoka is coming from with his deck build. Really interesting decision. However, the Rendy's deck is very well built. I guess all those cost penalizers like the Slanesh Temptation and Purveyors, they really work well for him. And in this case, is actually the worst scenario for Apoka with those really cheap units, because he needs to really add 1 for each and as next single of them. So it doesn't really do. It's not really a perfect scenario for Zarathur here. Both players decided to pass the actions, so I guess it will be down to commit their Warlords. And Rendy made his choice already. Now it's down to Apoka to decide where to go. And I'm kind of thinking, in his situation, he could really struggle between planet number 4 again and planet number 5 to try to kill those pirates and the traders. This may be the game plan from Rendy to keep Zarathur busy on the further planets and gain control on the first ones. Yeah, and he decides to go for plan number 2, and interestingly Zarathur goes for plan number 2 as well. So he read his intentions very well. He intercepted that commitment nicely, and it will be his economy and his kind of command struggle won on that planet. And I guess for himself it will be only that planet, one resource and one card won, and it will be 2 resources for planet number 3 for Rendy. Now Rendy only have 2 resources, so I guess that's enough for him to be able to trigger that ritual, which allows him to search the cards for 2 units, which will be definitely terrible for Zarathur in this battle to stand against, really. And they have first the commit trigger from the planet, which allows them to decide for each player if they gain 1 resource or 1 card. So is Rendy first to decide? He probably will take a resource. Well, he don't really need to, but Apoka is asking Rendy what he would like to take. Let's see. Or nothing, he's suggesting. Rendy says they take resources, so it's 1 resource for each of them. Okay. And Unearthed sets 1 at... Well, this is not the best choice, I guess. I guess really that additional resource for Apoka could really allow them to be able to trigger the warp storm. Now this could happen when Rendy would decide to play his ritual. The Zarathur triggering the warp storm there would harm all of those units for free, really. That would breaking the ice on almost entire army. But what I know for sure that there is no warp storm on the Apoka's hand, so there's nothing to worry about really. And Apoka decides to do not trigger nothing, so he don't want really Rendy to gain another resource or another card, and he decides to keep himself low with the cards as well. So he's more worrying about his opponent's hand than itself, and he draws only 1 card, which is the support. Really not a good draw for himself right now. So what could eventually happen here? Let's see. The plan number 1 is totally unguarded. Now Soulbinder could really try to do some action and move a unit like Chaos Fanatics to move. Well, he could move the Psychopaths on plan number 1, trigger the ability of plan number 1, and swap the Psychopaths with no, I would say move the Chaos Fanatics on plan number 1 and then trigger the battle ability. Wow, that could be a really good plan. It's about the time to go for the ritual again, it says Rendy, so he's actually thinking about triggering this ritual to summon 2 units from his deck. Wow, that could be a really clear information for Zarathur to fall back from the planet. So he plays the ritual. It cost him 4 resources, so he's actually able to look on the cards to look for 2 units of cost 3 or less. It's a 12 cards being searched right now. So Unearthed says the Unshown is being invaded by the Chaos forces. It's actually from both sides. So let's see, what will be the 2 cards that Rendy is able to kind of put in play here. It will be wow, so Ireful Vanguard and Rorkrag's Bloodhound. Well, very 2 powerful cards. And interestingly, the Ireful Vanguard will be able to trigger its effect as well to deal some damage, as the Zarathur won the command struggle on that planet. So really interesting play in turn of the event here. He put some markers to remind himself or his opponent that those two units have been summoned and they will need to go away back in hand if they will survive. And yes, Rendy decides also to trigger the ability of the Vanguard straight away to deal 3 damage to the Chaos Cultist. So Zarathur or Soulbinder cannot really move the Cultist anymore on player number 1, and that would be a perfect play if he could really do so, but unfortunately they need to go to discard right now. So they can move to combat phase. I guess the plan number 1, yeah. Apoka just noticed that this was the really bad turn of the events as well. He decides to move the Psychopaths now on the planet number 1, so he will gain the planet and the first blue icon, first green icon. But that doesn't really bother Rendy. He don't need this planet. He's aiming to gain the control of planet number 2 in the next round and secure the planet number 3, as he already deployed the Vanguard over there. That'll be the next choice. And he decides to swap the Purveyor Hybris with the Rogue Trader. So that's a good move from the Apoka. He actually moves that unit away from player number 2, which allows him to do a good deployment there. So that swap between those two units had potentially a really good result. Now it will go down to the battle on planet number 2, and both players, they do not have any actions, so it will be the first strike from Rendy to attack for free onto the Zarathur, and he Apoka decides to shield it with this Gligging Bombing, which he found unuseful this round, so he decides to shield and retreat straight away with 2 damages on his Warlord. So that's all the actions, so I guess Rendy feels free to really look onto cards and trigger the battle ability, allows him to search for 6 and rally for a unit of cost 3 or less to add it on the planet. So let's see if he will be able to pull anything out of here. And he does have one of the cards, which is the Drum Mask Name, so signature wizard sorcerer unit, and it's not really a bad one with 2 command icons. Both Ireful Vanguard and the Bloodhound go back on the hand, and the players do not have any action, so I guess it's all down to the next round. Now is initiative on the Apoka side, so he decides to play the Murder Colligator support, but he also receives a copy of Galvax Bloated and the Counterblow, and as you see already, Rendy have Ecstatic Seizures and Rogue Trader. So quite a good hand really, with 5 resources for Rendy. He controls the command game. He have this Slanish Temptation still in the game. He controls 3 planets here, so it doesn't really look good for the Apoka here at all. And what Rendy could really do is to deploy that Vanguard or the Bloodhound itself and the Rogue Trader still, and keep the resources. We definitely get the resources of either plan number 2 or plan number 4 to be able to trigger that Archon Terror. So he looks pretty secure. He decides to put a Trader first and leave himself a choice of which unit he will deploy after, and that Trader can go plan number 5. That's a definitely smart play to do. So go back to the Apoka for his action. He has 8 resources. He will definitely play one of those copies of Zarathur Flamers. And what he will be his choice for deployment here, really? Now, he's need to think about that red icons right now. So that will cost him additional resource to put in play. Zarathur Flamers on plan number 1. It will probably indicate that he will try to take over this planet and initiative here to prevent Rendy from gaining his victory condition here right now. So Rendy now need to decide which unit he will deploy, and I think he will need to start about thinking to defend that plan number 1 as much as possible. Obviously the Zarathur is a great combat leader, so with this counter blow in play he will be able to survive, and his units definitely will deal some increased damage here during the battle. So now not sure what is going to be the best choice, but I guess the Blood Hand itself with the brutal ability will do. Now the response is quick. Galvax the Bloated will go on planet number 1, and it will cost him 4 to deploy this unit on planet number 1 again, so it's a pretty costly game. Now there's only one cultist in play so far, so the Galvax only gets one attack, 1 HP. Apoka has been ready with his choices, so he already decided about the commitment, and I see this is pretty clear. He will go for plan number 1. Now the Rendy is still about to decide, and I'm thinking where he's gonna go. He could go for plan number 1 to prevent Apoka from gaining any economy at all, to dominate really a full planet, gain a massive income, and just block his opponent completely. That's what he does. So both warlords go on the first planet, and obviously the commit reaction now will allow them to decide either they want to draw the cards or add the resources, but I guess extremely short on resources with Rendy. That will not matter, as he will gain plenty from this command round. Really, additional cards, that's what the Apoka needs, and he really needs to start getting some cultists. I believe that Soulbinder and the Galvax indicates that he plays for cultists mostly, and it doesn't seem like he have any in his hand right now. So Dionysus says no commit reactions for him, so he don't want to have any more cards really, or he just don't want his opponent to get any more cards. I don't think it matters right now, because his opponent will be loaded very shortly, as he will win all those planets in command, so I'm not really sure if that's the best option here. Rendy thinking probably about his income, but I think he's good as well, so he actually is happy to keep Apoka as low as possible. He recognized the fact that he will be loaded. Now he decides to trigger that Duke of Debris, something he forgot in the previous round, and he's obviously adding all the incomes right now, and it will be a total of 5, 6, 7 resources and 3 cards. Absolutely awesome. Plus 1 card trigger from the Duke of Debris, so wow. And absolutely crushing victory in command, really. It will put Apoka very far behind, really, and especially if that Slaanesh Temptation will remain in the game for longer, it will just hurt him more. Now this is only 1 card for Rendy, and he picked the hateful Kiavik hateful unique unit, but he also drawn a 3 cards, so no mercy. Warp Storm, this will hurt Apoka very much. And also in the copy of Exotic Seizures, not really a great draw. But the Warp Storm and No Mercy, Archon's Terror, that's enough to break the Apoka's heart completely here. So I don't really see that he have any chances to win this battle, or even the game in this position already. Now Rendy thinks for the second. I guess he wants to decide either he wants to trigger the reaction, the ritual or not, and sacrifice the unit with grandma with the signature unit, but I don't really think that's really needed in this place. So the both players decides to pass the actions in command. So it goes down to the battle, is the initiative on the Apoka's side, so he will be able to strike first. If there are no actions from Rendy, he will be able to strike. And Rendy actually have the action, and he uses the Archon's Terror to send away those Zarathur flamers. So it's a good move. He really kind of prevents doubled attack and attack and sacrifice for 3 and 3 with the Zarathur being present. So that's a good choice to send that flamer back to HQ. No more actions in this round, so finally we will see some exchanged in attacks. And I think the Galvax will hit first here, and as he's increased attack 3 with the Zarathur will be 4 damage. So let's see who it will be a target for him. I guess it won't be the Bloodhound, who will definitely survive, so he will target Warlord instead. Interesting choice. So 4 damage on the Warlord will really okay, 1 will be shielded, so that will be 3. I think Rendy forgot completely about the add-ons, so Dionysus just kindly reminded is actually 4 with the Cultist and the Zarathur itself. So there should be another 2 damage going on to the Warlord. So yeah. And he'll be left only on 2. We know for a fact there are more shields here, so okay, players still disputing about the how much damage it should be dealt on the Warlord. Dionysus have it right. It's +1 from the Cultist and +1 from the Zarathur is actually 4 attack. So yeah. Rendy of course is sorry, he just realized his mistake. So it will be more damage added to the Warlord, and now I guess he will need to consider if he would like to keep his Warlord here or he will need to retreat him in order to prevent him being bloodied. And he decides to retreat, obviously being scared about any possible actions that the Zarathur could do here. So a safe play, I would say. Now the Zarathur will strike for 2, and he will try to hit this Sorcerer with the 4 HP. Avoid really hitting the Bloodhound, who have a brutal ability. So yeah, Zarathur hits the Sorcerer. Are there any shields being used in this case? I don't think so. There's no, well, actually, it's kind of dangerous play. Now Rendy doesn't know that there's a copy of Counterblow in the Zarathur's hand, so if he will decide to strike with the Sorcerer back now onto Warlord, it may cost him a unit really. So let's see what's Rendy's going to do here. Now he does attack Galvax, so he hits for 2. Okay, that's interesting. And then he hits again with the Bloodhound for 2 again on Galvax. So the Galvax will be left with full damage. So damage is being dealt, but it seems like Rendy again forgot about the bloated ability, which adds him another HP to his stats, so he's actually 5 not 4, and these 2 strikes, they're not going to kill that unit. So Rendy just kind of says it would be easier if Apoka would keep his marks, so he would remember, but as we know, he's not really needed to do so. So it's about to Rendy to remember about all the abilities of the cards. And this is all the beauty of the Conquest, to keep your attention on all the levels, because whenever though you have so many units in play and so many attachments and effects, you could really lose yourself and just lose the game by not remembering all of them. And this is what could potentially happen here right now. So the Apoka is kind enough to let Rendy to take those 2 attacks back and reconsider what he would like to attack. And he's purely I'm suspecting he's purely so generous because of that copy of the counter blow. If Rendy would like to attack with the Sorcerer on the Warlord, he could potentially die because of that counter blow itself. So let's just wait for full result of that battle, as it didn't kind of been resolved yet. So Rendy is about to reconsider his attack, and what would be? It will be a Sorcerer. And let me guess, it will be a Warlord, indeed. So, final turn of the event, Apoka shows the copy of the counterblow, which deals unpreventable damage to the Sorcerer, and obviously the ability of the Zarathur increased that damage by 1. So, Sorcerer is dead, and I suspect now the Bloodhound will strike for 2. And if it will be a Warlord again, yes it will. So he actually decided to strike for 4 as it doubled the attack. So he's actually bloodied the Warlord in the effect. That's unexpected really, but Apoka couldn't do really much more than this. So the Zarathur is already bloodied. Is still his initiative on this battle, so he has 2 strong units, but however with his Warlord being blooded, there's no much chance he could really use that all additional damage. So now the Unearthed decides to stay. It's all up to Rendy if he would like to keep those traders on that planet during the battle, or he would like to retreat with all. I think if he will not retreat, it could potentially end up with one of the units being crashed, and in this case he would use he will lose that Bloodhound anyway. So he's still thinking. He decides to pull back the Trader and the Duke of Debris and leave the Bloodhound behind. So the Unearthed doesn't waste his time. He attacks with the Psychopath for 3, and this will give him a lot of damage on this brutal ability, I guess. So yeah, Galvax will strike and he will attack the Bloodhound. I mean the Galvax, but Apoka adds 2 damage. He now forgot that the brutal ability is on the Bloodhound, so is it actually a strike for 5? They both seems to miss their own abilities from the opponent cards. So now the Apoka would like to attack the other way around in that case. And well, it could change a lot in this battle, but I guess as Apoka allowed Rendy to revert his move, it would be fair for Rendy to allow the Apoka to change his options right now. So as this is the fair play game so far, Galvax attacked for 3 and it's left 3 damage on the Bloodhound. It's hard enough, so Apoka kind of reconsidering the options again. In the end case scenario, he decides to attack with the Galvax the Bloated. So it will be at 3 damage on the Bloodhound again. Alright. So that's the final decision, I guess. And now the Bloodhound decides to attack back for 5, and he will hit that Galvax anyway and set him to discard. So nice turn of the events. Psychopath left behind, and he will attack for free. No, he will not. Rendy decides to play the copy of the Static Seizures, which will send this medallion back in the discard, but whenever medallion goes to discard, it allows him to put the token, cultist token, in play in his HQ, which doesn't really change much right now, but he could potentially be moved in here by the Soulbinder, and Apoka recognized that immediately. He moves that token in the game, and on the plan number 1, and this will allow him to attack for another 1. So yes, the cultist token attacks for 1. On the Bloodhound, Rendy uses the shield to prevent the attack. But it's got the 2 damage. Yeah, of course. As the Soulbinder increased the value attack of the token, now it's actually still 1 damage going into the Bloodhound. So, wow, those cultists, they will take over the planet. No. So Rendy moves back a Doombolt to his hand. I wonder if he really wants to shield this or not. He will need to, otherwise, yeah. Well, this will it'll be a difficult choice for him, but he actually kept the attachment, well, kept Doombolt in his hand, and he decides to discard that Bloodhound anyway, as he probably realized there'll be another attack from Psychopath, and the Psychopath could really trigger his ability again, so that will be potentially a 4 damage in total, which couldn't be shielded in all, but it will require from Rendy to drop all these cards from hand. And as the initiative token is on the Apoka's side, it wouldn't change much. He will need to auto-retreat from the battle anyway. So he decided to sacrifice that unit and trigger the Warp Storm. And that Warp Storm will actually hit the HQ for 2 damage on all units. So it will hit the Zarathur Futur, and it will kill the Zarathur Flamers, which was an expensive play. But now Zarathur is much in danger, as it will be an initiative token on the Rendy side. It will probably mean that the Zarathur is risking very much to be bloodied. Trigger the Apparent ability allows the Apoka to search for the 6 cards. And funny enough, it's another copy of Garvax the Bloated coming back into the game for free. So all this effort to kill one ended up with one being back in the game. So, well, Rendy didn't gain much here. He's been left without the resources now. So I wonder, more the Kagigator being kind of triggered. So yeah, Warp Storm being drawn to do in his hand. So great. He could be useful before, now won't really do much. So yes, that's the result of that round. I don't think the guys, they have any more actions. I don't see any possibilities without the resources, so I guess we will go back in the next round. Now, what's in his what's in the hands? Well, Dionysot is already mentioning in the chat window that he don't see any reasons to continue this game, as he thinks he lost already. But we have decided that we will continue for the purpose of that video and the game itself, to call it a good sport, to continue with the next round. So there's a copy of Inquisitor Kairos Wrath and No Mercy coming into the Rendy's hand. There's a copy of Expandable Pawn going into the Apoka's hand, so not really much in the terms of the good units, not really much that Zarathur could use here to win that game. I guess that's well, I will say that we may to have a look. There is a small chance, there's a light in the tunnel for Apoka to try and win this, but it won't be match. He will need to deploy all those units he have on planet number 2 and try to defend it there. Well, let's play and see how this is gonna end up anyway. So the initiative is with Rendy, so it's about for him to decide about the first deployment, and the first deployment will be the Ironfall Vanguard copy again, and he will deploy these units on plan number 1. So yeah, very strong commitment over there. He definitely wants to gain another red icon here right now. And Apoka's response obviously is to play the strongest card he have, which is Raging Demon Host. And Demon Host is a 3/3 unit of cost 4, but whenever it dies, it's actually being added as the attachment. So he also decides to put the expandable Pwn. Now that will allow to trigger the support. So support itself could be added now to the Raging Demon Host, and he will be 5/3. So really strong unit in right now. Very strong presence on that planet number 2. I think the Vael the Gifted will find himself tough to go there. So I don't think his commitment is going to be plan number 2. I think Apoka will need to go to plan number 2 to just accumulate all those units there and prevent Rendy from winning that planet and winning the battle. Unfortunately, this will allow the Rendy to go and win another command struggle on different planet, and it will be planet number 3. So obviously he did play for the economy. He moved some units onto there, and now the Soulbinder is being left alone. Obviously the limit hand size 8 will matter now, as Rendy could potentially draw a lot of cards. Well, not really a lot, actually just 1. But it could matter. The Duke of Hebris will be able to trigger as well. So let's see. He looks on the hands and he decides to keep Rendy decides to keep the top card, so it's something interesting enough for him to keep that on top. Now deciding about the command struggle is only 1 resource for Apoka, and it's actually 7 resources, 6 resources, and 2 cards for Rendy. So yes, he decides to ignore one of the bonuses from Void Pirates to be able to trigger the Duke of Debris to choose 2 cards and draw 1. So he left himself a choice, and he drew that 1 card and ignored the Void Pirate, which is perfectly fine because that will give him a total of 8 cards in his hand, which is okay. So he have a copy of Inquisitor Kai's Wrath, but that won't help him. Apokas have only 2 cards left, so there is not much he can do. The 2 copies of Doombolt are still in his hand from the beginning. He never really used them, and probably the reason for that is that all the units from Apoka have a really low HP, and he didn't really find it useful, and they won't really do much. And I think one of those copies is being tried to be used as the shield, and he pulled it back. So Apoka is well aware as well that this is in Rendy's hand. So the planet number 1 will be resolved. Dionysus doesn't have any actions, so Rendy decides to trigger the ability and deal 1 damage to that expandable Pwn. Now, would it be shielded? Yes, I think the Apoka realized that he will never use that Warp Storm Arms. It's too expensive now to be played, so he just ditched it in order to keep that resources probably for deployments like Zarathur framers plus anything else that will be added to his hand. So yes, he did ditch it, and now he can obviously Rendy already get rid of the support, but he will sacrifice that Soulbinder in order to get 2 cards and 2 resources. Mark of Chaos, a great card being pulled into his hand, and the Murder Congregator being triggered, but that's not in units, so that support will go back. Now, fuck, Dionysus really is irritated by this. He realized that he already revealed the support which he have, so not really great. So okay, in the planet 1, he got 2 resources, so that will help him with a total of 6 if he will draw another unit with 2. Now what the Rendy does is triggering the planned ability of the planet, and this allows him to retreat the unit to its owner's hand with all the attachments to give him back the cost of the unit. Now, the interesting fact about this, if the Raging Demon Host will be sacrificed that way, he will actually be able to attach it back to the to one of his units. So wow, and so it will attach it to a unit I control. Is that what you intended? I didn't think that through. So Rendy we didn't realize that will be actually a chain reaction here. If the planned ability will be triggered, that demon host will automatically be attached. However, I'm not sure about the attachment, if that attachment will stay in play. So, and he won't get the resources for that unit, so it could be a good move. So it kind of because it's Dan, so he won't get the resources for sure. It won't be actually the bad move from Ren to do it now, because obviously this demon host will still be able to strike, and then it will die, and then it will be ending up as the attachment to one of the units. It's in double gain for Rendy to trigger this right now. It's actually a good decision to do. Technically, the replacement it will never go to his hand. So the attachment. So it will be double gain. Okay. Let's see. So the attachment will go to his hand, but he will not gain the resources for the unit. That's what the Apoka says. So okay, Rendy will need to seriously consider this right now. So instead, he actually triggered the Garvax the Bloated to be sent back to the opponent's hand. I don't really think that this resolves a lot. It does not really do much, but obviously he decides to put it back, so that's okay. So Garvax the Bloated backs into Apoka's hand. This is the no actions from both players, so we can go back and do the next round, next turn. This time, that copy of the Cogitator support goes into the Apoka's hand and one of the units. And wow, we have Slanesh Temptation, another card into hands of Rendy, and also the Archon's Terror. Now this Archon's Terror could possibly decide about everything. What Unearthed will do, he will deploy that Garvax back. But the response from Rendy is to put the Sacrificial Altar in play. Now this support is coming a little bit late, and now it won't do really much. So let's see. Okay, another copy of Ravening Psychopath deployed on plan number 1, so really strong commitment from Apoka, really just building a wall to prevent that Rendy to gaining that victory condition here, which is a good decision, so the game is not ended up yet here. However, Rendy's got 10 resources, 9 cards, so it's definitely something. He marks that plan number 2 to give himself one more resource and draw a card. And obviously the Zarathur will need to win the command struggle here to really gain that additional resource and additional card. Now, I don't know if the plan number 3 maybe would be the better choice, but it's too late to think about that. Apoka decides to deploy another Zarathur Flamers on plan number 1, so it's absolutely committed to defend it with everything he have. And there's so many cards in Rendy's hand. I don't really know where he's going to start. Is he going to build the defense and start really thinking about plan number 3, or he's going to go for that plan number 1? Now, it will be a difficult choice to make. Obviously, the Zarathur Vanguards, they will. Wow, is a third copy of the Vanguard, so that will be a tough choice now. Well, as the Warlord will be present, there is no way for him to really gain the commands, to lose the command. So I don't think the Apoka will go for plan number 1. So another copy of Blood Hand being deployed in plan number 1. Now, is the Apoka will put anything else that we have, which is the Flamers and Mark of Chaos? Definitely so. I'm just thinking where he should put that Mark of Chaos. Should it be the Raging Demon Host? No, it should be one of the smallest units, which is really easy to sacrifice. And I think an expandable Pwn, that's the good target for that support. Now, there's a copy of Arhan's Terror. So if he will attach it to the Demon Host, Arhan's Terror will basically take out too much. If he's going to attach the Mark of Chaos to Expandable Pwn will die anyway at any point. It could be really sacrificed to prevent 2 damage. So that will deal 1 damage to all enemy units straight away. So what it will be. Now, Durin said he shouldn't deploy the last unit on this planet. And he asked, can he deploy something else instead? So Rendy allows him to take it back. This is very interesting. I don't know why is he taking it back? Is he planning to come here with a Warlord? It doesn't have any sense for me. So I'm not really sure what he's all about, but he decides to put the Mark of Chaos in play instead of the Zarathur Flamers, and he put that Mark of Chaos on the Expandable Pwn, which makes perfect sense. So he decreased his firepower, he put a really good attachment on the right unit, but why he took the Zarathur Flamers, it's still kind of stays a mystery for me now. I'm not really sure what's behind this. So, okay, Rendy recognized that this attachment is nasty, but he's about his deployment, and he decides to put Inquisitor Caius Wrath in play. 3-5, really good unit, unique. So, a lot of unique units in this battle actually. There is Galvax the Bloated, there is the Inquisitor, there's a Blood Hand. So yeah. No reaction, of course. He doesn't want those hands to go, but he adds some markers on the Vanguard. That's correct. So all the Vanguards, they actually have +1/+1 because of the Zarathur being bloodied. So it's another good ability that some players keep forgetting about, that these guys, they're getting another kind of attack points and health points for any Warlord that is bloodied. So it's actually very interesting. It could change a lot in this game though, because it's actually a 3 units being boosted with the attack right now. So wow. And that's a lot for Apoka. So he actually changed his mind back, and he decides to put Zarathur Flamers on the planet. He recognized that it will be all or nothing here. So Rendy doesn't have any more deployments. He spent all his money, and another copy of Zarathur Flamers go on the plan number 1. So that's actually a total of 80 units now in the plan number 1 against 3, 5, probably 6 with the Warlord. So it will be a really tough battle here and a really interesting battle as well to look at. Chaos absolutely just clashing here for all they have. So Rendy decides about the commitment. Probably is a pure decision to go to the battle. Now I don't think Zarathur will go on the same planet. he made to decide to go for planet number 2. No, he needs a card. So, well, he did go for planet number 2 because he will get that card from the signature support of Rendy. So yeah, okay. So it turns out that they can already do the reactions. Obviously, reaction of Rendy will be to limit the hand size to 8. Apoka takes the card for the ability of the support from Rendy. I will kind of resize the screen to make this battle, kind of having a problem with that, more visible here right now. There's no really cards in hand, so we don't need to have overview anymore. So it's down to command straggle. It will be 2 resources for Apoka, and it will be actually 2 resources, 1 card, and the Duke of Debris is what makes it 2-2. So still advantage in Rendy's play for all of the game. He's actually getting quite nice command income. So, but he cannot really do it twice with the cards, as the hand size is limited to 8. He can only draw 1. So I guess there will be a Duke of Debris being triggered to just choose one of those 2 from the top, which makes a perfect sense. He has some money, so yeah. Let's see what card he'll be able to pull. Infernal Gateway. Wow, okay. That's interesting. For Unearthed. And he have a free resources, so he could really play that effect. And he could do something here, really, if he had anything useful, I guess. This battle, it looks even. I think the Archon's Terror will change a lot, sending those demon hosts away to HQ. But if not that, then it will be probably a really close battle. But let's see. Zarathur Flamers can strike and really deflect the damage, or they will do more damage from their ability. So Rendy think he lost that one. Apoka thinks he's kind of right too, but I'm not so sure really. Let's play it down to the end and see which ways that's going to go. So is the Archon's Terror being played, and he's targeting the Garvax the Bloated. Oh well, he is unique, so you cannot really do that. So he's the demon host only. Well, and again, Rendy kind of seems to missing the fact, the important kind of factors from the ability of his own card, so he cannot really route the unique unit. He's +5/+5, so he's actually a 7/10. He's a powerful guy. The way to work with him is to kill small units first and then deal with all of the others. So he decides to move the demon host away, which is the second obvious choice. Makes sense, so the demon host will go back to HQ now, and is initiative, so he will be able to strike first. Now I can only imagine that he will need to get rid of those psychopaths or Zarathur Flamers first to do not let them strike and deal damage, and that's what he chooses to do. So 3 attacks go on the Zarathur Flamers, and the Zarathur Flamers are being actually defended by the expandable Pwn ability, which only deals 1 damage to Flamers, and then obviously the ability of the Mark of Chaos allows him to deal 1 damage on all of the units on enemy side, so that's a lot. It's a really good start of the fight from Apoka. And obviously the Galvax using his ability as well is a chain reaction. Whenever the cultist leaves the play, he deals 1 damage to enemy unit, and he decides to deal that 1 damage to enemy warlord. Interestingly, Rendy don't want to shield this. Rendy decides to bloody the warlord and deploy the Kaivik the Hateful as a reaction for that damage being assigned to warlord. So wow, okay. 3 deployments, so I guess it will be Apoka attacking with that flamer. Indeed, he does 2 damage on that new unit. One of them is being shielded by the Doombolt, and I guess now it will be the action from Apoka to sacrifice them straight away. The Cookie Gators are being triggered, so Apoka kind of took 2 cards in his hand and well, okay, you're right. So Galvax being pulled as a demon unit. Okay, I need to really check that. He have a demon in his in the card ability in deck builder, but he don't have a demon trait on the card itself, so that's interesting for me to ask for the future, just to find out. Anyway, Galvax the Bloated have been pulled to hand, so I guess that Unearthed will be able to play this now. Zarathur Flamer's been attacked for 2, and they die as there's no shields, no sufficient shields in the Apoka's hand. I guess the Infernal Gateway, it's much better to be kept in here than the Zarathur being just sacrificed after the attack. So no actions. It's Apoka to decide about the first attack. And I guess it will be Galvax himself doing a sufficient 1, 2, 3, 4. So 6 attacks to Bloodhand, and it's a 5 attack. 1, 2, 3, 4. I see 4 cultist. I think because it's on the planet, so it's actually 3. So 5 attack. Okay, so still. That's not enough to survive, so the Bloodhand will go and die. No action from both players, so now the Vanguard will try attack for 4 and strike, I guess, to one of those psychopaths. Yeah, as you see already, the battle is not going too bad for Rendy, and it doesn't seem like he's going to lose one. So, yeah, Ireful Vanguard strikes here again, and it will be the Galvax the Bloated being targeted again, so that gives him a 4 damage. Wow, so the psychopaths really can survive. That's really good for Apoka. He can really start attacking again, and he triggers the first attack is with the cultist on that Kaivik the Hateful to try to kill him off. I guess the shield will be used right now. I'm not really sure if that decision to strike for the Galvax was the best decision from Rendy. He should be really taking off that stats by killing the cultist first. As he's killing the cultist, he's also chipping away the stats from the Galvax itself in the same time. But it's already too late, and the cultist killed the Kaivik, the Hateful. That's interesting, no shields being used. So, psychopaths attacking the the Ireful Vanguard, adding 1 damage, and now Apoka decides to use his ability to add another damage to that unit. So, definitely a focused fire on that unit. From the psychopaths, I can expect to... 1 more to show with my ability. What you talking about? No, okay, so he did add 2 damage already. Okay, so now he's on focus fire, another psychopath attacking this Vanguard for 1. So Rendy again, he is adding the damage, and the Psychopath is using his ability to add another damage now. And now Archon's Terror is being used as a shield. Wow, so okay, because there's no money left, so I guess he cannot really use both. It's a good discard. He kept 2 copies of No Mercy. He didn't really use that Dumbolt before the shield. I'm really interested why. But let's see, he's maybe thinking about the Psychopath abilities, and that's why he wanted to prevent that. Now, your swing. So, the 3 Vanguards and Inquisitor left on the planet. It's Heresy Unfolded, which I'm kind of putting in a chat window. It's something very interesting going on this planet. That Inquisitor is really accompanied here with the Chaos Terminators. So, the first attack from the Ireful Vanguard goes into the Galvax the Bloated. And I guess now Rendy will receive a very grievous message from the Apoka, which is triggering the Infernal Gateway to bring another copy of the Galvax the Bloated back in the game. Absolutely crashing move. So Rendy is asking if he shielded, but nope. This is a play he did. He had another copy in his hand. It's not the one from discard to being moved. Okay, so I see. Unearthed by mistake moved that Galvax from discard, not from the hand. So he's actually messed it up a little bit. That's why the Rendy is so surprised. So yeah, he showed another copy of Galvax from his hand to rectify that mistake, and he sends the wrong one back to discard. So it is actually in the event being played. Okay, so the confusing part is being now discarded. So the Galvax the Bloated coming back into the game, refreshed. So now he will be able to strike again. He thinks that unit is up. I think it's not really an op. This unit is really well designed. I liking that really new Nurgle unit. I'm really regretting that we don't have more Nurgle units. I like the Nurgle itself. It's a really good team. If you're reading Warhammer books, it's good, such a good climate to read, like through the battles with the Nurgle Chaos Lords are so tough. And I think we should have effects like that, giving Nurgles a lot of HP and toughness. So it's cool. There's attack from Ireful Vanguard on the Galvax the Bloated. Psychopath decides to attack the Inquisitor Chaos Rod, and now he's triggering the ability to add additional damage onto the Ireful Vanguard, and this additional damage will be now shielded by the Doombolt, which is a good decision. So Inquisitor Chaos Wrath will strike back, and obviously the Galvax the Bloated will be the target. So now the first attack from the Psychopath will be to go for the Ireful Vanguard. Is going to use the No Mercies to shield it? Probably yes. Let's wait for yes. So the shield is being used, and now the ability of the Ravening Psychopath being used again. Is another copy of No Mercy will be used? Let's hope. Will not. Wow, so that's surprising. He kept it alive. So now the Cultist token will strike again. The Inquisitor Chaos Wrath. Wow, okay. So it's a close combat, really. I still don't really see that with all those damage already, the Psychopaths won't be able to deal more than they have now. So it will be the first strike for Rendy. Unfortunately, I guess the Inquisitor Chaos Wrath will kill one of those Psychopaths, which happened. So now the Psychopath can deal 1 damage to the Vanguard, and he will did so, and now he can sacrifice himself, deal additional damage. Doesn't have point. So yeah, the Cultist died already from the attack, and the Psychopath, well, stays alive, but he will be dead. So that's it. Battle.